I want to echo Deputy Barry's call in relation to the Debenhams workers. It's really shameful that 1,000 workers have to continue for this length of time their protest to just get basic justice and decent treatment from the liquidator. I mean, Debenhams clearly don't care a damn about them, but from the liquidator. I think you have to exercise the influence that you have to ensure that they get a just settlement. And Martin, that I mentioned to you out in Blackrock, repeats his invitation for you to come out, in all seriousness, to sit down with him, with Eilish, with Viv, with Helen and others, and talk to them about why they are there and what they expect of your government in order to ensure they get just treatment. And also on the PUP, can I just say this? You see, Taoiseach, I don't understand why you won't restore the PUP, because there is no difference between now and March in terms of the bills, the mortgages, the financial pressures and so on that are on people who've lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic. So how do you think that people are going to pay their bills? Whose work has been stopped or their income drastically reduced as a result of pandemic measures. I mean, you have to answer them, and it seems to me there is no other answer other than the fact you have to restore those payments and protections as a minimum.
Thank you very much, Deputy.
Is it the case that the opposition deputies are saying that the unemployment assistance, the job seekers allowance, should be 350? Personally, yes. Is that no, not certainly. Is it the case that it should be 350? Let's call a spade here. People are trying to. I'm making the point. Yeah, that's not sustainable. Carers allowance isn't sustainable at 350. If you elevate every social protection measure to 350, which is really what you are saying, because you're avoiding that all the way through, and Deputy MacDonald has avoided it, and you have, okay, you'll say it, but to be fair to the Deputy Boyd Barrett, you think there's an empty, you'd either tax the imaginary whoever out there to fund things. There has to be sustainability. There has to be sustainability to what we do. There has to be sustainability to what we do. We've got to think ahead. The whole idea of the PUP was to open up to new entrants. We did that. Because of the acknowledgement that there will be further restrictions imposed, and we also extended it out to April, and it's my sense that we'll have to extend it beyond April until we get a vaccine. But government has to take the overall view. We're borrowing over 20-odd billion this year, and rightly so. We'll be borrowing very large amounts next year. But there are limits now here. And there has to be fairness across the board. And what has happened in PUP is the majority of PUP recipients will be receiving very close to what they would have been receiving prior to going on the pandemic unemployment. Bar those on the higher level. Bar those on the higher level. And I also have to say, I want to say also in terms of the Debenham workers and the Aer Lingus workers, on the Debenham workers, again, we have. I'm very conscious of the efforts that have been made by Mandate and others in terms of the liquidation by Debenhams. I'm not happy with how Debenhams have dealt with this, but there are limitations to what can be done. Government will provide a statutory redundancy. Government will obviously uphold that, and government will do whatever it can within its powers to get extra support for the workers where that is possible. And that has been the approach from government from the outset. We haven't, and I've never promised something that I felt might not be achievable for the workers concerned. And I'm very clear on that, and have been when I've met the workers and I've made those points. And that within the limits of the law and within the limits of what we can do legally, we will do to try and get some support for the workers concerned. And we'll speak to the Taoiseach in terms of Aer Lingus workers and in terms of the Minister for Social Protection in relation to their rights being undermined. And I would just have to say to Deputy Murphy, I mean, this idea that this has all been done for profit is nonsense. I mean, a lockdown destroys ordinary people's lives. You talk about ordinary people. Do you know what you're saying? Who suffers the most? I know that. And we have a set of criteria that was in the plan that we negotiated with NEFIT. Not negotiated, sorry, discussed with NEFIT. It's a broad criteria, I accept that. But the bottom line is this, that everyone had an expectation of a graduated response. And once you once you lock down, you have unintended consequences. And there's no point in pretending that it wouldn't have a very serious effect on a lot of self-employed people, ordinary self-employed people, who have grasped the period between the reopening from the last lockdown to now to try and create viability in their business. They might be employing 4 people or 5 people. A lockdown on Sunday night could have spelled the end for them. I mean, these are the hard decisions that we have to... And we're not making the call in terms of profit or short-term profit. That's an outrageous assertion. It's a propagandistic assertion. That's more to do with ideology than reality on the ground. Our reality is to try and protect people as much as we can, lives and livelihoods. And they're intertwined, because a whole range of other health consequences can emanate from people losing jobs, from people not sure about their future. Their mental health can be undermined. We have to take that on board. But if we may not, we still have it within our authority, our responsibility as people. We can impact on this, in my view. We collectively, individually, if we pull together to try and get the numbers stabilised. If we don't, we may have to move to another level, to level 4 and level 5. We may have to do that. And as I said last week, the decision was at this stage not to move to a level 5. At this stage not to move to a level 5. And I'm hoping that moving to level... I have no guarantees either. Just as there was no guarantees, by the way, that if we move to level 5, it will all be fine in 4 weeks' time. The New Zealand strategy, we're not New Zealand, either geographically or in terms of economic construct. We're different to New Zealand. No other country in Europe at the moment has gone ahead with a lockdown, even though the numbers are far higher than ours. No, it's not that. It's not to do with ICU capacity. It's not to do with ICU capacity. No, it doesn't. They don't actually say that. They have a whole range of criteria, you know. HSE are saying they have ICU capacity. We're obviously very concerned. We're obviously going to monitor that, and we're going to watch that. But the HSE are running the service. And the last time out, we managed to create a surge capacity when it came. And our hospitals managed. Now, we'll have to readjust, and I hope we don't get there. But if we do, we will do everything we possibly can to protect people.
Thank you, Taoiseach.
But I think there has to be balance to the debate. And using language like short-term profit triumphs over everything is just propagandistic, ideological nonsense.